What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to White Sox Daily once again. I'm Aaron Feely. I know we are all still stoked about the Chicago White Sox and the announcement made yesterday, winning the draft lottery, getting that #1 overall pick. A huge deal for the Chicago White Sox. We kind of touched on that in yesterday's video and what that kind of means for the rebuild going forward. The first time this has happened for the Chicago White Sox since 1977 should be a massive, massive pick for Chicago as they really start to add more foundational pieces onto this rebuild and onto the team of the future. More than likely going to be Rock Chalosky, we most likely believe. But today, speaking of draft-related news, not quite the official draft, but the Rule 5 draft took place. And the Chicago White Sox came away with 2 from the major league section of the Rule 5 draft, and they also selected 1 from the minor league section. Chicago has had some success with the Rule 5 draft in the past. Obviously, most recently, Shane Smith being selected from the Rule 5 just last season, and he ended up paying off gangbusters for Chicago. So we'll see if they've got any luck once again this year, as they were picking 2nd overall in the Rule 5 draft, and we'll jump right into it with some of the selections that they made, and one player that did leave us, unfortunately. And right off the bat, we're going to start with Jedixen Pz, the right-handed pitcher from the Boston Red Sox farm system. Just 21 years old, right-handed pitcher, as we mentioned, and that's going to be a phrase and a position that you're going to have to get used to listening to in this particular video. The White Sox clearly had a plan of attack heading in to pilfer some of these other teams' minor league systems this particular Wednesday night. But yeah, we're talking about Pz here, the Venezuelan right-handed pitcher. Hasn't really pitched that much yet in the minor league system. He's only 21 years old, hasn't had a season yet in which he has thrown for over 100 innings at any given point, mostly been a reliever to this point down in the minor league system. He's mostly played with High A Greenville Drive in the Boston minor league system. But he is a really solid strikeout pitcher. He's a guy that comes in with 307 strikeouts to just 49 walks thus far, and a guy with a 1.07 career whip in High A. He has really been a solid pitcher for the Red Sox minor league system. A little bit surprising that they didn't bother protecting him this particular year, but a guy with a 3.17 ERA probably still has a couple more years down in the minors to, kind of iron out some of the kinks a little bit before he's ready to make the leap. But he's a guy with, to this point, 4 pitches in his arsenal, and they're all really solid. We already talked about the strikeout numbers, and a big part of that is his fastball. He pairs it up with a changeup and a slider, and he's got a pretty nasty cutter as well. So exciting things on the White Sox horizon with the selection of Jedixen Pz, 2nd overall in their first pick in the Rule 5 draft earlier on today. Then in the 2nd round, they were able to select Alexander Alberto, who comes to the White Sox from the Tampa Bay Rays minor league system. They got him in round 2. They mildly funny, the White Sox will also pair him with their own infield prospect, Alexander Albertus, which is certainly an interesting naming pair there, as they likely will both go directly to Birmingham, as Alexander Alberto, a guy that has mostly been pitching in Double-A for the Tampa Bay Rays to this point. 6'8" is Alberto. He's someone who was not in their top 30, but a guy with a lot of tools. Obviously, first of all, the length that Alberto brings to that pitching rotation. A guy that, he's got a lot of velocity behind his pitches. He's got an intimidating figure when he's up there on the mound. Is 24, so he's a bit of a late-stage minor league player, but a guy that obviously the White Sox saw something in. They wanted to go out and get him. posting a 2.59 ERA to this point in the minor leagues, 64 strikeouts to just 21 walks, not particularly bad. He was also the Tampa Bay Rays minor league reliever of the year in 2025, so a little bit of a notch under his belt there. And one of the more intriguing bits of Alberto is the fact that he definitely, while his ERA, 2.59, pretty solid, nothing that just jumps out at you immediately. Oh, we got to get this guy up on the major league roster ASAP. But he's a guy that limits any form of real power contact against him. Only given up 2 home runs to this point in his entire minor league career in the Tampa Bay system. And we already talked about the strikeout numbers that he possesses. So he's a guy that can make you whiff, and when he misses, it's not like guys are getting real hard contact on him, which is definitely intriguing. So something that obviously the White Sox saw, that they thought that they could bring in here to the White Sox and see what he can do for him in the future. Again, pitching has been something that the White Sox have recent success with in this Rule 5 draft, and obviously trying to keep that going as they go right-hand pitcher. And then even down in the minor league Rule 5 draft, the pitching of the Major League Baseball minor league systems across America were not safe either. Jackson Kelly ended up being the White Sox pick in that minor league Rule 5 draft. 25 years old. Again, another one of these guys that has been in the minor league systems for a minute now. 12th round pick back in 2022. They got him out of the Texas Rangers minor league system. Pitched for Mercer University way back from 2020 to 2022. He's a guy that's a submariner. Kind of throws that weird, awkward, underhand-ish style. He's been with their high A and double A teams over the last couple of years, a 2.10 ERA, a 1.16 whip, 32 strikeouts to just 17 walks. He missed most of last year, which was something that obviously kept him down there in high A for most of last year, because when he finally came back, it was already mid-June at that point, so they were trying to work him back up. But after the surgery on his pitching arm, missed a majority of last season, so that obviously kept him down there a little bit. Did have 9 saves, however, to this point through his minor league career, so a guy that has pitched in high leverage situations. We've heard Chris Getz talk about how much that was going to be a priority as far as who they were going to be targeting this offseason, and right off the bat, bang, 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 they get into this Rule 5 draft. They start pilfering and pillaging some of the other minor league systems from across Major League Baseball, and they go right-hand pitcher, right-hand pitcher, right-hand pitcher with their 3 picks. So obviously a plan of attack in place there for Chris Getz, and a guy here that we just mentioned has some leverage situation pitching experience, and that's a niche that Chris Getz was very adamant the White Sox needed to add for this coming year, and they go out and they get one from the Texas Rangers. White Sox, though, not just selecting guys, they did lose one player in this Rule 5 draft this year. That was Peyton Pallette. So he was the only White Sox player that was selected by another team, so we do lose him, as he was not protected on the 40-man roster. He ended up being the only White Sox player, as we just mentioned, that was taken in the Rule 5 draft. He was actually ranked as the number 14 White Sox prospect by MLB.com, so it was kind of unfortunate to lose him, just 24 years old. And wouldn't you believe it, right-handed pitcher. He ended up going second round to Chicago back in 2022, pitched for Arkansas for a number of years. He had been the Double-A reliever for Chicago, and then he made it up to Triple-A just last year. He was throwing at about a 4.06 ERA, had 86 strikeouts to just 28 walks, pitched 64 innings for the Double-A team last year, and across Double-A and Triple-A, I apologize there. Ended up going to the Cleveland Guardians, who were the ones who selected him in this Rule 5 draft, though the White Sox will be getting him back, and all the other teams that we stole players from will be getting them back, should these players not remain on the White Sox active 26-man roster for the full season. He will be offered back any of these players to their original team for just a $50,000 a year contract. So, that's the other end of this sword here. But yeah, the White Sox losing Peyton Pallot to the Cleveland Guardians in the Rule 5 draft after getting 3 right-handed pitchers themselves from some other squads. Let us know what you guys thought of how this Rule 5 draft shaped up for the Chicago White Sox in the comment section below. And until tomorrow, this has been White Sox Daily. See you next time.